beyond tragic. It's a very American style incident that took place this time in Australia. So let's take a look. And I'll
shots ringing out
I'll
over Australia's most famous beach, packed for sunset. Panic as people on the shore and in the sea run for shelter. As rounds are fired, a moment of bravery. Watch as the man in white, Ahmed al-Ahmed, tackles one of two terrorists, targeting hundreds of Jewish people who were peacefully celebrating Hanukkah, the festival of lights. The disarmed attacker retreats to a bridge, where his co-assailant, 24-year-old Naveed Akram, continues to fire, shooting Ahmed al-Ahmed twice in the arm. The pair continue their attack before they're surrounded by law enforcement. One is shot dead and the other is seriously injured and apprehended. Police are investigating reports of a third terrorist. They also discovered improvised explosives.
Look at the speed of him shooting. This is a trained sniper. Yeah, I mean, he was I wouldn't say he's a trained sniper necessarily, but it's obvious that he is very well trained with this weapon, because being able to cycle through with ease like this obviously implies that he is very well practiced. It doesn't mean that he's like well practiced at, like, I don't know, combat or something. It just means he's like definitely very aware of how to use this rifle, as you can see. And I think it's not a regular bolt action, right? Because regular bolt actions, you have to push it back in. This snaps back into place. I forget what the distinction is, and I'm sure the gun perverts in the chat will correct me on this, but that's, I believe, called a straight pull, where it's like, it's almost like a bump stock for a, you know what a bump stock does for a AR-15 semi-automatic? Where, like, it's not the same, I don't think, right? I don't know if the straight pull actually utilizes the kickback to basically push the bolt back into place, but it turns a bolt action rifle into a gun that you can shoot many bullets with much faster frequency. But I don't think, but it's not like a modification or anything, right? No stop. Bolt action just cycles a new bullet, not much resistance. No, but don't stop. No, this is not like a regular bolt action, isn't it? Because it rechambers instantly, as opposed to a bolt action where you have to like push it back into place. That's why I said I'm not a gun pervert, but I'm pretty sure, like, you were doing so well before the bump stock. Okay, it's not like a bump stock. It's not like a bump stock at all, because a bump stock uses like the actual kickback to make it. Don't worry about the bump stock. Forget I said the bump stock. Okay, forget it. I think he's cycling it himself. It's a straight pull, but this is still considered a type of bolt action. It's a modified bolt. A standard bolt, you have to push up and then back and then forward and down straight. Yeah. I've shot standard bolt action rifles. It doesn't work like this. Like standard bolt action rifles, you have to push it back into place every single time. This one automatically snaps back into place. Which, to be fair, I mean, even that is still very, very, I mean, that's, you have to be very well practiced. Right? So he was definitely trained. We will find out more about the background and details of the shooters. But yeah, this was I mean, I don't even know what to say. It's just not, there's nothing to say. It's just a insane act of ultra violence that we are much more familiar with here in the United States of America. And I guess as things are getting worse all over the planet, now Australians are experiencing it as well.
Explosives in the attacker's car beneath the bridge. Before paramedics arrived, people rushed to help those injured. 11 did not survive. 29 others, including children, were taken to Sydney hospitals.
It was absolute chaos. We didn't know what was happening, where the gunfire was coming from. I saw.
Oh my God. Is that? That's Arsen Ostrovsky. What? He was there? Okay. This man, albeit a victim in this circumstance, is an absolute nut job. He posted a selfie on Insta during the shooting. He is the most dedicated to posting selfie man I've ever seen in my entire life. Justin, Arsen Ostrovsky, one of the Zionists who spent the past 2 years justifying Israel's war crimes and supporting Israel's actions, was injured in today's attack at Bondi Beach, Australia. He tried to justify Israel wiping out hospitals in Gaza following October 7. He literally always posts selfies. Like, he's the guy who will post a selfie with his kid, like, talking about how, like, you know, bombs are falling on Israel. He loves posting selfies. He's Mr. Selfie. It was a Chabad event. Yes. Yes. It was for Hanukkah, and it was put together by the Chabad.
Blood gushing in front of me. I saw people hit, saw people fall to the ground. My only concern was, where are my kids? Where are my kids? Where's my wife? Where's my family? I survived October 7th. I lived in Israel the last 13 years. We came here only 2 weeks ago to work with the Jewish community, to fight anti-Semitism, to fight this bloodthirsty, ravaging hatred.
That's why you're here.
That's why I'm here.
Everyone was just running, and there were bullets, and there were so many of them, and we were really scared. We didn't know where they were coming from.
Australian authorities have been conducting raids at several properties as part of their investigation. The country has strict gun laws, meaning this kind of attack is rare.
When I ask for calm, that is really important. This is not a time for retribution. This is a time to allow the police to do their duty.
Australia's Prime Minister described the attack as an act of evil.
There is no place for this hate, violence and terrorism in our nation. Let me be clear. We will eradicate it.
But Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu criticised the Australian.
Come on, say something stupid. That's pretty cool, man. That's cool. You see a insane act of violence, you know, children being shot at, and your first thing, your first goal is to let me go check in with the HasanAbi broadcast so I can clip him saying something and post it. Lol snipped me. Incredible stuff, brother. You certainly are a good guy, okay? You are certainly a good guy. This is the good guy. This is what good guys do. Don't worry, if you don't say anything, it will find 1 to 2 messages from the chat. Yeah. This is good guy behavior, you know? Oh, 16 people died. Let me go see if I can get Hasan to say something so that I can clip it out of context. Cancel him.
Government, citing a warning letter he wrote them after their recognition of Palestine.
Your government did nothing to stop the spread of anti-Semitism in Australia. You did nothing.
Also, once again, no matter what happens around the world, you can always count on Israel and defenders of Israel to instantly turn around and talk about, like, you know, shit that's immediately in the interest of, like, Israel's foreign policy, Israel's domestic policies. Like, the bodies haven't even been collected yet. And Benjamin Netanyahu will go on television and be like, this is why you can't give these Arabs a state. You know, immediately. I saw the Israeli foreign minister deliver the first statement after the shooting, and it blew my mind. Like, not even condolences for the victims. They don't even care about like Israeli Jews that live in Australia that happen to be in the vicinity of this event, where they just immediately turned us into like no like condolences to the victims whatsoever, just straight up attack. Yeah.
to curb the cancer cells that were growing inside your country.
One of those killed was a British-born rabbi, Eli Schlanger, a 41-year-old father of 5. His colleague, Rabbi Levi Wolf, who rushed to the scene, was defiant.
As a Jewish people, our light will not be dimmed, and the holiday of Hanukkah will remind us and the world that a little bit of light dispels a lot of darkness, and what we need to do is add in our light.
The darkness of anti-Semitism destroyed.
Yeah, the rabbi that got killed was West Bank. Was I think a settler in the West Bank, and was, you know, in Israel, in and out of Israel. Very, you know, this doesn't justify what took place. Obviously, completely unacceptable. You know, what is this? I wrote Benjamin Netanyahu 5 hours ago. Now, as a result of this, the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, said the following. He said, "Let it be known that if you target Americans anywhere in the world, you will spend the rest of your brief, anxious life knowing the United States will hunt you, find you, and ruthlessly kill you. They're not only trying to annihilate us, they attack us because they attack the West." That's what Israel expects. Oh, my God. He's I wrote, "Your call for a Palestinian state pours fuel on the anti-Semitic fire. It rewards Hamas terrorists. It emboldens those who menace Australian Jews and encourages the Jew hatred now stalking your streets." Brother, how do you turn around and make this about a Palestinian state? And if you were to make this about a Palestinian state, how do you make this about... Oh my God, dude. It is insane. It is insane. Every pro-Israel person has like a different, you know, pet peeve that they're going to turn around and like use any instance of harrowing ultra-violence, anti-Semitic violence, whatever, to their advantage in this moment, to be like, well, this is exactly because they're giving aid to Gaza. But they never actually think about the enmity that has grown towards not just Israel, but also Jewish people as a whole, directly as a consequence of Israel being tied falsely to Judaism over and over again, putting Jews in the West in the crosshairs as a direct consequence of Benjamin Netanyahu, and not just Benjamin Netanyahu, but the entire Israeli government and the Zionist project, tying Judaism to Israel openly and deliberately, dangerously. Like, if anything, this is it's the exact opposite of what these guys are saying. If there wasn't such instability born out of Israel's apartheid state status, that there wouldn't be this kind of negative association. Sure, anti-Semitism would still exist, right? It's one of the oldest versions of bigotry and hatred. But like, how can you not see that these sorts of incidents are increasing directly as a consequence of the association that people make with Judaism and Israel, Judaism and Zionism? And there's not a moment that is wasted in instances like this. Sky News interviews the Israeli deputy foreign minister about the attack in Australia, and she used the opportunity to attack the hate marches in London and claimed that globalized intifada is a call to kill Jews. It isn't. Oh, my Lord. They were probably fans of yours, to be honest. Okay, good one, dude. I mean, the people that come in here to say like that are unironically doing a different version, a smaller version of what these guys are doing, right? That's what they're doing, which is, there's a moment of crisis. There's a horrible act of violence that took place. How can I make this about my least favorite Twitch streamer? How do you live like that? It doesn't make any sense to me. Yeah, never let a good crisis go to waste. It's an opportunity.
Disrupted the joy of lighting Bondi's menorah today. Around the world, Jewish communities will continue to light those candles in their windows this week in defiance of the rising threat against them.
Well, Australian broadcaster Hamish MacDonald is the presenter of Mornings on ABC Radio Sydney. I spoke to him a short while ago and asked him what the mood is like there just hours after the attack.
It's not an overstatement to say that I think Australia is devastated by these events. This took place in Sydney's backyard, Australia's backyard, Bondi Beach, the place that so many travel from all over the world to see as that single snapshot of Australian life. And that is very much what this place is all about. It was a Sunday evening. It was a perfect early summer evening. Friends of mine that live here said you couldn't have asked for a better Sunday evening. Another friend had just jumped on a surfboard because she saw her friend riding some nice waves not too far from here. And it was interrupted. It turned to chaos. There was pandemonium. Hundreds of people running south from the beach, north from the beach, up the hill. Some people still carrying beers in their hands because people were coming into bars and pubs and cafes and restaurants and saying, run for your life. And so sadly, at least 12 people have been killed, including, of course, one of the gunmen we now know. But I think obviously it's significant this has been declared a terrorist incident, but it is also the single biggest shooting in Australia since 1996.
This is going to have a profound impact, isn't it, on Australia? It's not something of the like that the country has seen before.
Jewish contacts of mine, friends, have been in touch tonight saying, you know, we've been warning of this. People have questioned whether we were exaggerating when we said this sort of thing might happen. And so I think there's a sense of deep regret in the Jewish community that their worst fears have been realised. As I drove down here to Bondi Beach tonight, I stopped off and saw an Orthodox Jewish friend of mine who spent her afternoon ferrying crying, distressed, hysterical young women of the Jewish community that were here at the Hanukkah event up the hill to their residences because they could not get out of here. Just think of the timing, the first day of Hanukkah, the lead up to Christmas. This is when Australia kicks back for their summer holidays.
And the Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese, has said he's going to eradicate this hate. I mean, what might that look like, and do people believe he's able to do it?
I think it's very hard to know how he intends to do that, speaking honestly. Sydney particularly is a city that has felt these divisions that you've felt there in the UK, that have been felt all over the world, particularly in this 2-year period since the October 7 attacks. The friction points that have emerged that probably existed all along, but that have boiled up in this period of more acute conflict, have been very present here in Australia and have been shocking to many.
But as well as that barbaric violence, we also saw extraordinary heroism today, didn't we?
Yes, I mean, that video of the man tackling from behind one of the gunmen, wrestling the gun from him. Honestly, everyone I've spoken to that lives around here points to that video and that man. My Orthodox Jewish friend that I spoke to on the way down said, you know, it was those sorts of Australians, ordinary Australians, who stood up in the face of that violence.
Hamish MacDonald, thanks so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
The gentleman who...
Yeah, he got shot twice, for the record. An Arab man of Arab background was in the vicinity, and knowing full well that there were 2 shooters. His name, I believe, is Ahmed. Is it Ahmed El Ahmed? He ran up to one of the shooters and disarmed him.
Who raced into the scene to disarm one of the gunmen. We're just learning some details about him because he has been shot. Now, we are confident in saying that that is him. One of his relatives has just spoken to one of our reporters. We've got an interview coming in. We understand that this gentleman's name is Ahmed Al Ahmed. He's a 43-year-old married father of 2. And he raced in to help. We understand apparently owns a fruit shop in Sutherland. No experience with guns. He was just walking past. We are told that he has 2 bullets in his arm, but they think he's going to be okay. And in the next hour, let's have a listen to the hero's relatives talking about his acts this evening at Bondi Beach.
Still, he's in the hospital, and we don't know exactly what's going inside. But they said the doctor, he's very okay. Yeah. And next 2 hours, they let us to go in and see Ahmed because he's still inside, and he do the operation. But we hope he will be fine. He's a hero, 100%. He's a hero because what we see on the social media, he's 100% hero.
To his shoulder?
Yeah, he have 2 shots, one in his arm here and one in his hand.
And have you been able to talk to him today?
No, because I come when I see what's happening, and I come.
Yeah, so one of the first things that took place that I saw, at least, like some of the first viral posts were about how like this guy was actually not Arab or whatever, and then the people, when they found out that he was Arab, immediately turned around and said, well, it was still Muslims that were responsible for the shooting, so don't give credit to the Muslim guy for stopping it. I wish more Muslims were like that guy or whatever. It was just a most insane. It's like very clearly racialized.
In the first wave, there were attended 14 people who were deceased at the scene. Through the course of the evening, another 2 people succumbed to their conditions at New South Wales hospitals, and a total of 42 people attended New South Wales facilities. It is not uncommon in these major incidents for members of the community, sometimes often with
not even an hour before this, Drew was ranting about how all Middle Eastern people need to be removed and are terrible. All of a sudden, they're also heroes. What a fuck loser.
This is what it means to be Australian. I do want to make the point that there is a significant amount of support available from the New South Wales health system. I could commend to the community that there are great resources available on the New South Wales Health website if you need mental health support, and some reference material if you also need that. Just in conclusion, I do want to make the point. There were some amazing lessons learned from the Bondi Westfield Shopping Centre. Last night, I am told, the command structures were seamless, the joint agency approach, the ability for paramedics with the support of police to work in these hot zones, I'm absolutely convinced contributed to the saving of lives that otherwise would have been lost. Finally, just one message for the first responders at these scenes. You are an inspiration to us all. The way you put yourself in harm's way, your courage and resilience, we all thank you.
Commissioner Lanyon, can you elaborate? You said yesterday that one of the gunmen was known to police. Was that gunman known to police for extremist views, and were any terror symbols displayed at the attack yesterday?
I prefer not to comment at the moment. We're still very early in the investigation. We'll be happy to provide further information that it goes along. I want to give our investigators the opportunity to investigate thoroughly without speculation. We did hear last night a lot of information was coming forward. I want to make sure
that who knows how many lives he saved with that apprehension, by the way.
That's all part of the investigation. As I just said before, I'd rather not comment on that right at the moment. Obviously, we will look at the motives behind this attack, and I think that's really important as part of the investigation. Our investigation will be thorough, and we will be happy to provide further information.
Was there any watch list or intelligence agency?
Sorry, can I just have one? Sorry.
Was there any indication that the shooters were known to any service?
It was for the people asking, like, why are they saying this was an anti-Semitic act or something like that? It was, we don't know the full motives of the suspects yet, but they did very clearly target a Hanukkah event that was being put together by the Chabad, and it's very obvious that it was a Hanukkah festival that they were shooting. So you know, it's not. That is the reason why people are saying that it's anti-Semitic. It most likely is. Like, while we don't fully know, like, while there is no complete confirmation, it's understandable for people to assume that. You know? It's like you shoot at a church, it's, you know, most likely, if you go into a black church and shoot up a black church, even before you figure out what the motives of the shooter is, you can probably assume that this is like a white supremacist guy, like Dylan Roof, right? It's a very logical conclusion to
He's had a
arrive
gun
at.
licence for approximately 10 years.
And the younger man, he was the one known to police and to ASIO. Do you have any more information on that?
No, I don't. And I think I said last night it was very limited knowledge.
Can you elaborate on why he was known to police?
No, I can't. Not this morning. That's all part of the investigation.
Can you confirm the identities of the gunmen and whether they were staying at an Airbnb in Campsie?
I can certainly indicate that they were staying at an address at Campsie. Their residential address is in Bonnie Rig. They were staying at an address in Campsie.
Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has laid some blame on your feet. What is your response to Netanyahu's comments yesterday that were pretty inflammatory?
This is a moment for national unity. This is a moment for Australians to come together. That's precisely what we will be doing.
Is it a failure that these men were seriously on the radar of our authorities?
Look, our authorities do an extraordinary job. An extraordinary job. As Commissioner Lanyon has said, investigations have already made some progress. The fact that there were raids on the home in Bonnie Rig and at Campsie last night. We will continue to provide every resource possible to the AFP and as well to our intelligence and security agencies.
Prime Minister, Police Commissioner, not looking for a third offender. That means not just no third shooter, but no other persons of interest or suspected accessories. How do you know that these two were acting alone?
What I'm saying is that we will conduct a thorough investigation. If there is any other person that is associated with the two offenders that we believe that was either involved or responsible for what took place, we will take appropriate action. What I'm saying very clearly is that there were two persons involved yesterday. There were two persons in this atrocity. We are not looking for a third person who was involved in yesterday's incident directly.
Commissioner, was anyone arrested? This is a failure that this man was able to get a gun licence and that he was not more on the radar of authorities.
I think there's actually legislation that governs how people have a firearms licence. So what I've said so far, and I'm not going to go further into it at this stage, there was very little knowledge of either of these men by the authorities. The person was determined to be entitled to have a firearms licence and had a firearms licence. The person had had a firearms licence for a number of years for which there were no incident and it was regulated.
Do you see that as a failure?
I think it's probably premature to be talking about this. When I'm speaking about an investigation, we want to get to the circumstances of everything that occurred yesterday and what led up to it. We are determined to make sure that investigation is thorough.
Why was there so little knowledge of these individuals, particularly the 24-year-old who you didn't know about? I mean, this was a planned attack. Doesn't appear to have been something that spontaneously happened.
I think that's really part of the investigation. We want to understand the motive behind these two people. There are many people in the community for which the police have very little knowledge about, and quite rightly so. We want to understand whether these people were further involved in any offences, but we have no history to say that's the case.
Prime Minister, are there families cooperating?
Sorry, can I just...
Are there families cooperating?
We will be speaking to the families. We have spoken to the families.
What was the purpose of the firearms licence?
Sorry,
what was the purpose of the firearms licence? What was his reason for having firearms?
I don't have that information this morning. What I've said is that he did hold a firearms licence and did have 6 registered firearms.
Premier, clearly it's early in the investigation, but obviously a terrorist has been able to hold a firearms licence. If changes need to be made to our gun laws in New South Wales, will you make changes?
The short answer is yes. We're looking at that right now. Obviously, we're in the early stages of this investigation. New South Wales Police need to provide all the details of this inquiry to the government, but I made it clear last night that we will take every step we possibly can to keep our community safe, and we'll be looking at law reform along
How does one
that
acquire
route.
guns in Australia? How does their gun law work?
This is an intolerable situation. This is an attempt to break apart.
Gun laws in
our
Australia
social
are very
life, to
tight.
divide Australian against Australian.
There are a lot of limitations to what kind of guns you can actually acquire, and the process of getting a gun is also fairly difficult. I think in Australia, I'm going to look it up a little bit. I'm going to look it up, but I think in Australia you need like a psych profile before you can even get a gun. You need to have a reason. It's for hunting usually, and it's not easy to purchase firearms or ammunition in Australia. Here, this is from Police NSW. from the government of Australia. A person must not possess or use a firearm, prohibited firearm or pistol unless the person is authorized to do so by a license or permit. All firearms used by licensed permit holders and NSW must be registered except for firearms that are exempt from registration requirements. Firearms which are exempt from registration requirements include imitation firearms as defined by 4D. Anyway, you need to have a license or permit to possess a firearm which takes ammunition, or they are authorized to possess the ammunition by permit. I do think that the gun laws in Australia absolutely played a role in this, in the death count being lower than what it could have been. This could have been like a Stephen Paddock style situation. You know what I mean? If they had like semi-automatic rifles, AR-15s, it would have been. Oh no, Kaya! No, Kaya! Get out of there! You're gonna make this crazy. You need a license with pretty significant background checks. Once you have a license, your selection is pretty limited. Need to keep them in a ground bolted safe, which the cops will randomly come around to check to make sure the guns are kept in there. Yeah. They had one major mass shooting that took place in Australia in the 90s, and then they implemented some very, very significant gun laws, and since then they haven't really had any serious, like, there's no, not the same as like the United States of America. This is 1996 Port Arthur massacre. We did a buyback system, but that didn't stop people from keeping them, unfortunately. Yes. Gun laws in Australia are some of the strictest in the world. The shooting tonight in Bondi shows very clearly that no matter the case, if bad people want to obtain a gun, that they will. Oh, God. Libertarian nationalists, Australia first. Classic. The fact that these scumbags can only get their hands on a shotgun and a single-shot rifle clearly save dozens of lives. Anyone who doesn't see that is a fool, like this guy. Yeah. And then, of course, American brain rot immediately getting into Australian political discourse. The fact that AU has demonized firearms the way it has is why no police were equipped to eliminate the threat. A trained officer with a capable rifle in his trunk could have saved lives. Maybe grow up and stop thinking of tools as having a nature. Focus on the humans using them. Trained armed police officers were firing back at the gunman within 4 minutes. Trained and armed officers killed one of them. Trained and armed officers brought down the other one within 5 minutes of exchanging fire. You're not very smart, are you? Like, what are you talking about, bro? We have Uvalde. Like, Uvalde happened in the United States of America, okay? Where the most geared up police were completely rendered useless. And there are so many instances of this because mass shootings and school shootings specifically happen with such regular frequency in the United States of America that, like, we know sometimes there is a heroic cop, but in most circumstances, it's actually an unarmed hero that ends up apprehending the gunman, or the gunman kills themselves. Okay. And that's the only way that these sorts of incidents end. American cops have basically everything short of RPG in the trunk. And yet, you know, it seems like there are a lot more mass shootings that take place in our country than a place like Australia. I cannot believe that we are literally forcibly exporting brain rot to other countries. I hate so much. It's so crazy that not only are we ourselves, okay, consistently advocating for our own demise, but we want to get involved in other countries' affairs, and we want them too. We're like, no, that brain rot, we must export it. You must have it too. You must have that brain rot as well. Every Australian needs a gun immediately. It's insane. It's insane.
Will continue to stand with
like the Australian cops with the limited training that they supposedly had still do a better job than American cops do in situations like this. And they're still talking. Americans are still talking. Like, all things considered, this could have been a far, far worse event. It was already a horrible event. But it blows my mind that we look to this situation in a country that has like reasonable gun safety and gun control, and we still, like, everybody loves when horrible incidents like this take place, so they can just take on whatever cause they have and just hammer it over and over again. And I think that in and of itself is another indication that we are so desensitized to these kinds of acts of violence, especially Americans, right? Because it's like, I mean, there was a school shooting that took place in Brown only a couple hours prior to this happening in Australia. And that's basically any other day, right? I mean, that happens all the time here. It's the gun equivalent of vaccines. It's the same people are saying, oh, I got the flu even though I got the shot, so the vaccine doesn't work and we should outlaw them. Anyway. But think about the profits American gun manufacturers could earn if they were unrestricted access in the AU. Yes, except the Amerifats that are advocating to loosen gun restrictions in Australia thousands miles away on the entire other side of the planet are not actually gun manufacturer executives that are slated to, make profit here. They're just regular ass Americans that think this is how it's supposed to go. They are doing the bidding of gun manufacturers against the social welfare of a different country thousands of miles away. Okay? But they're doing it for free. They're doing it because they just they are so invested in this. So that's another narrative that's like very frustrating to see, obviously. But of course, the thing that everyone, the number one thing that everyone is taking away from this is, of course, Muslims are horrible. They're all violent. We have to kick them all out of the countries that they're in. Imagine getting a Muslim to report on an Islamic terror attack where Muslims mass murdered innocent people. Well done, Channel 9. What read the room? Unbelievable. Wow, dude. That's just an insane thing. Like, you see a random Muslim journalist and you immediately assume like all Muslims are related to this incident. Once again, straight up unrestricted, unrestrained racism. 51,000 likes, of course. Yeah. What happens when a white guy is responding to the scene of a white nationalist doing like a racialized hate crime or something? Nobody will turn around and be like, whoa, I can't believe a Christian white guy is reporting on another Christian white guy doing a mass shooting. Like, that's so stupid, right? People understand how stupid that is, I hope. Benjamin Netanyahu sought to blame the shooting in Sydney, at least in part, on Australia's decision to recognize a Palestinian state earlier this year. A horrible massacre in Australia, and already Netanyahu is cynically manipulating it to blame Palestinians and Australia itself. I'm telling you right now, I think the reasons as to, like, the way that the entitled and the arrogant ways in which members of the Israeli state communicate to the rest of the planet is a big part of the reason why people just immediately go, okay, you. Okay? Like, there is no room to breathe here for people. There's no opportunity for people to grieve their loved ones. There's no opportunity for people to take a breath and be like, what's going on here? How do we make sure that this never happens again? Instantly, Benjamin Netanyahu comes in and it's like, oh, this is because you wanted to recognize the Palestinian state. It's so transparent. It's so cynical. It's so obvious that you don't even give about any of the people that were killed. You only care about one thing and one thing only, which is consistently yelling at all of these Western states that offer damn near unconditional loyalty and full-blown military and economic support to the apartheid state of Israel. Christchurch 2019 reaction didn't immediately assume a certain ethnic or religious suspect. In fact, the reaction didn't really turn vindictive towards anyone. Muslim reaction to injustices towards them has to be restrained in the context of Western media bias. Yeah, of course. And that's the reason why you see like mainstream outlets instantly go, oh, well, they've let these hate marches go on. And the hate marches are marches, chat. It's insane. Okay? And of course, the way that Benjamin Netanyahu conducts himself in these affairs, once again, invites tremendous scrutiny because he is the absolute worst. He is the absolute worst communicator for people who aren't like brain poisoned by ultra Zionist tendencies. When they see someone like Benjamin Netanyahu try to communicate in this media environment, they go, we know your hands are bloody. We know you're a bloodthirsty murderer. And now you're over here immediately turning this back into completely irrelevant political goals that you have personally, or completely oblivious to the dangerous conflation between Judaism and Zionism. Because in some respects, anti-Semitic incidents such as this one, okay, or all different sorts of anti-Semitic incidents, and I'm not talking about like ones where people are like, oh, I saw someone say free Palestine in my vicinity and I got scared. I'm talking like actual acts of anti-Semitism, right? That kind of stuff explodes as a direct consequence of tying all Israeli violence, all apartheid violence, and all back to Judaism, not only in Israel, but also in the Western world as well. It's insane. Do you think pro-Palestine protests should be allowed outside of synagogues? It's entirely dependent on what's going on inside of the synagogue, my friend. What do you mean? There has never been a pro-Palestinian protest outside of a synagogue when there wasn't an actual event taking place inside of the synagogue that was like selling stolen West Bank properties to Western developers and Western buyers. So yeah, they don't just like, people don't randomly organize and go, oh, yeah, this synagogue. That's not how that works. That's the lie that people try to present in the media, because the truth is obviously much more difficult to justify, because the truth in that situation is, why are they selling? Why are they doing land sales that are illegal? Okay, off of stolen property, stolen land off of the Palestinians in the West Bank, which is occupied Israeli territory. Why is that happening? Why are they doing that in a place of worship? So of course, I'm not an idiot. Don't get suckered by mainstream media narratives on this stuff. Whenever the media tries to cover incidents like that, they will automatically say, oh, this is an anti-Semitic act. I mean, yeah, if there was a random anti-Israeli protest outside of a random synagogue for no reason, okay, for no reason whatsoever. Let's say there's plenty of anti-Zionist Jews that congregate there as well, and they're just randomly doing a pro-Palestinian pro-Palestinian protest outside of that synagogue, then yeah, it's a little suspicious, right? But that's not the case. That's not how this works. That's never how this works. In every single one of those instances, where the media makes a big deal out of like the anti-Semitism taking place in these pro-Palestinian protests outside of like a synagogue or a place of worship or like something like that, they're literally doing land sales inside. Okay? Stolen land in the West Bank that Israel illegally occupies. Benjamin Netanyahu, the Israeli prime minister, sought to blame the shooting in Sydney, at least in part, on Australia's decision to recognize the Palestinian state earlier this year. Speaking to government ministers on Sunday, Netanyahu said that the Australian government had done nothing to stop the spread of anti-Semitism in Australia, with the results being the horrific attacks on Jews we saw today. He did not provide any evidence to back up that claim. Gideon Saar, the foreign minister of Israel, instantly did not even offer condolences to the victims. Said, I'm appalled by the murderous shooting attack at a Hanukkah event in Sydney, Australia. These are the results of the anti-Semitic rampage in the streets of Australia over the past 2 years with the anti-Semitic and inciting calls of globalized intifada that we realize today. How can you not understand? How can you not comprehend that these two things they have to be forcibly separated, and you are merging them together. You are merging them together, tying back Israel to Judaism aggressively, which only increases the likelihood of violence that Jews are subjected to in the West, because people are hearing what you're saying and they're tying it back to what Israel is doing. And yes, they're already running around blaming the pro-Palestinian rallies like that, which is so psychotic, dude. Yeah, the pro-Palestinian rallies that are conducted and supported by people of every different background, including Jews themselves, are actually conducted so that, with the singular purpose of saying that they should go and do shootings at Hanukkah festivals like that. It's just it's so frustrating.
Your view, because we've heard from other Jewish people living in Australia this morning, they don't think enough has been done up to now.
My view is really clear. They're very much playing it safe, and they pay a lot of lip service. And I've been told that the actual police who are witnessing death threats and chants at, I have to call it what it is, pro-Palestinian rallies, when they hear death to Jews, gas the Jews, and from...
They're not... Oh, my God. Yeah, there are rallies where they say death to Jews and gas the Jews. Those are not pro-Palestinian rallies. Those neo-Nazi Defend Australia rallies conducted by white supremacists, as a matter of fact. But those are reliable allies. Those are fascists of a different order, and therefore that doesn't actually invite any scrutiny from Zionists for some weird reason, okay? If your highest priority is to, one, ramp up Islamophobia, and two, to immediately tie this back to rallies, because your only priority here is to defend Israel and defend Israel's goals, then immediately you're just going to turn around and be like, "Oh, well, it's just, what did you expect?" Of course, it's because of protests. It's because of protests.
The river to the sea, which is a clear directive of kill Jews worldwide. Globalize the Intifada means kill Jews wherever you are. And just so you know, the Jews that go to a Hanukkah party are very open. Everybody there were probably very few ultra-Orthodox Jews at this party. It's mostly secular Jews who look like everyday Aussies.
In this kind of media environment, it is virtually impossible to bring back sanity, okay? This kind of media environment is also partially the reason why this kind of sentiment actually blows up. Good morning to everyone waking up to the false flag terrorist attack at a Hanukkah event in Bondi Beach, Australia. This post from Candace Owens aged well. They've been signaling that a 9/11 style attack is coming the second week of December. Save this tweet. It will age well. That's it. Most people that don't have the same the same interests, or most people that haven't lived around Jewish people or have Jewish friends that are seeing this kind of stuff, non-Jews that are seeing this kind of stuff in the media, the constant conflation between Judaism and Zionism, and then also the immediate response coming from people who want to defend Israel that tie any kind of act of violence such as this one immediately back to rallies. They see this stuff and they go, "What are these people doing? What are they saying?" It feeds into the anti-Semitic conspiracy theories. And it's crazy because it makes my job a lot harder. It's crazy because it's virtually impossible to cut through that noise. No matter how much I rail against this kind of narrative, no matter how much I criticize this kind of dangerous conflation, it seems like mainstream media, especially in the West, will consistently do this dangerous conflation. And after a certain point, of course, this is what you're socially conditioning people into believing.
Ms. Haskell, that governments around the world, including the Australian government, could have done more to tackle anti-Semitism. What would you have expected them to do to prevent or anticipate this kind of attack?
Also, there's this aspect of it too. There was no moments wasted. The blood hasn't even dried, and there's already a growing suspicion in Israel that Iran is behind the mass shooting in Australia. Israel's assessment grows. Iran is behind the massacre. There's growing suspicion in Israel that Iran is behind the massacre in Sydney, Australia, in which at least 12 people were murdered during a Hanukkah party on Bondi Beach. Israel Hayom, Israeli official. Iran is behind it. A senior Israeli security source says Tehran and his proxies have stepped up efforts to target Israeli and Jewish sites worldwide, pointing to the deadly Bondi Beach terrorist attack as a part of that campaign. In Australia, where following specific intelligence warnings, the government took partial measures against the Iranian embassy, including the expulsion of the ambassador. There is no doubt that the direction and infrastructure for the attack originated in Tehran. Netanyahu, a few months ago, I sent a letter to the Prime Minister of Australia. I told him that their policy is fueling the fire of anti-Semitism on the streets. I said that it encourages hatred of Jews. Anti-Semitism is a cancer, and it spreads when leaders are silent. Anti-Semitism is a cancer, and Benjamin Netanyahu is like the #1 purveyor of anti-Semitism, the #1 disseminator and distributor of anti-Semitism. Israel investigating possible Hezbollah involvement in Bondi Beach shooting, possibly in retaliation for the Ali Tabatabai's assassination. Khan, according to warnings passed by the Israeli security establishment to Australia, Iran has established a large infrastructure of terrorists with the aim of attacking Jews and Jewish targets in the country. It's much easier to get people on board with a super simple narrative. On the pro-Israel side, it's much easier to get people on board with the Islamophobic narrative. All Muslims are a dangerous, cancerous entity in the West, and they are going to do barbaric stuff all the time. And also on the anti-Semitic side, sometimes the double Monty by the likes of Nick Fuentes and Asmongold, where they hate both Muslims and Jews, right? But it's also much easier to convince people that this is a Jewish conspiracy. A senior U.S. official told Fox News that if Australia attack was ordered by Iran, the U.S. fully recognizes Israel's right to strike Iran in response. Like, obviously, Iran did not order the attack in Australia, but I'm also having trouble understanding why Israel would have a right to attack. How is Israel involved here, lol? Insane. This is what happens when you got one speed. Bomb Iran, you know? Well, I guess we got to bomb Iran again. It'll work this time. Yeah, and they already are like talking about how Iran is 2 weeks away from nukes again.
Well, fight racism, fight violence against Jewish community, fight racism in workplaces.
We're trying, lady.
They chanted, gas the Jews, gas the Jews. Not even a single arrest. Not even a single person.
Also, it is kind of stupid to just be like, yeah, we got to combat bigotry. Also, we need to kill every Muslim. we need to purge Muslims from Western states because they're cancerous. Okay, how is anybody going to take you seriously after that? There is no, like, this kind of stuff doesn't work anymore, is what I'm trying to say. You can't just, I mean, she also packages that up with like totally made, right? But it's crazy that it's crazy to me that you start off by talking about, let's combat bigotry, and then you instantly do bigotry towards Muslims, not realizing that people hear that inconsistency and they go, no, I want to be bigoted towards Muslims and Jews, actually. It's all or nothing, There's this attitude among reactionaries that I sometimes find laughable. Obviously, this is not a laughing matter in this moment, but like there's this weird attitude that reactionaries have where they think like, oh, as long as we can say slurs, we can combat, the violence coming from these individual groups. Like they try to make it seem as though if you say the N-word, then like crime will go down or something, right? And ironically, Israel, also being a fascist project, a fascist ethno-state, also does that towards Muslims, where it's like, hey, the only way to solve this problem, the only way to solve anti-Semitism is if we just get real vengeful towards Muslims. You watched that protest in 2023 with Ethan? He showed you that video. Is not a lie. Brother, are you kidding me? Not only was that protest not only was that the captions of the protest were debunked, like the audio in the protest was called into question later down the line, but one protest from 2023 after 2 years, do you feel like this is a valid argument? Are you insane? Yes, dude, there are going to be white nationalist opportunists that try to weave their way into the anti-Zionist project. Okay? Yeah, here. The NSW, New South Wales Police, actually investigated. Say, analysis shows pro-Palestine chant in viral Sydney Opera House video was, "Where's the Jews?" Independent expert says with overwhelming certainty that the phrase was not "gas the Jews," as was widely reported around the world. But even if there were actual anti-Semites in that protest, okay? Even if there were actual anti-Semites in that protest, you're talking about one protest from 2023 and turning a blind eye to the atrocities that took place for 2 years with unlimited support from Western governments. Like, what an insane thing to hold on to. It's ridiculous. Anyway, like regardless of whether or not there were actual straight up anti-Semites in that protest, okay? Regardless of whether there were actual anti-Semites in that protest, think about what you are matching against one another. Okay? 2 years of live streamed Holocaust of children, women, and the elderly in broad daylight with unlimited support versus one protest at the Sydney Opera House. Insane. Well, I guess you can't criticize Israel's person
who had to answer for that, but they tried to cover that. When you hear them chanting to globalize the Intifada, what?
Yeah, there's a reason why she immediately jumps to globalize the Intifada. Bro, you don't know that you talking about? I'm living in Israel.
What do you think that means? Globalizing the Intifada mean exactly that. To go on massacres, shooting people in the streets, to violently attack them. This is what it means. And if you let that continue and run in your street, waving flags of terrorists, pictures of people who murdered innocent.
Yeah, I have a very different read on this because I see what pro-Israel people are doing as exactly what she's saying. And unfortunately for her, and unfortunately for many people that want to continue the Zionist project by death, displacement, and destruction, many people also now see it in the same way as well. Yeah, waving the Israeli flag, wearing IDF gear, wearing IDF dog tags, consistently talking about Am Israel Chai, Am Israel Chai. Actually, we kill all the children. Every child in Gaza is actually not innocent because they're potentially a terrorist that we've eradicated. Also, at the same time, they were human shields. But even if they weren't human shields, and even if there wasn't actually a Hamas officer in the immediate vicinity, which, by the way, that still doesn't justify this kind of death and destruction, they were still terrorists in training. So therefore, it was actually valid. All of this stuff is why people actually hate Israel. Okay? All of this stuff paired up with a constant need, a constant interest in meddling in the domestic affairs of these countries that are already offering unlimited loyalty and support to the state of Israel as it continues its genocidal settler colonial project is precisely the reason why people hate Israel now.
Children.
In spite of the mainstream trying to control this narrative and trying to contextualize every single act of violence against Palestinians.
You know, if you don't fight it, in your silence, you actually support that. You justify that. And to globalize the Intifada means exactly that. A terrorist attack on a beach in Australia where Australian civilians are being murdered and killed. This is what it means. So when you hear that, start acting, enforcing, persecuting, punishing.
Yeah. When you hear someone participate in an protest, put them in jail. Well, this is already happening. We know what this looks like with Palestine Action. People who are holding up a placard that says, I support Palestine action. You know, retirees, pensioners, people in wheelchairs, blind 80-year-olds are getting arrested by the British police. We know how stupid that looks. And trust me, it doesn't work. Okay? It's not creating a positive association with Israel. And the more you tie Jews to Israel, the worse it gets for Jews in general.
So that people
Yeah, she also said persecuting instead of prosecuting, which was a Freudian slip, of course.
understand this is absolutely unacceptable. No racism, no violence will be accepted, not in Australia and not in the UK either.
Instantly persecution. Sorry, I'm tweeting. Not a second is wasted for victims of more their loved ones. Instantly, Israel's envoys demand persecution. They blame recognition. Australia. Not sure it was a slip. Australian government was super neutral and bent to the local Israeli lobby. Of course, every Western government has done the same thing. There's not a single government that has actually done that's actually done anything decent here. Not a second is wasted for victims to mourn their loved ones. Instantly, Israel's envoys demand persecution of protesters worldwide. They blame the bare minimum recognition Australia has offered to Palestinians is so cynical, so transparent. Stanley Cohen says, a core tenet of Zionism is knowing how to work the room, second to none, and exploiting any and every moment. Truth gets swallowed by cheap political ends. Yeah. PragerU guy is mad at Zoran for condemning the attack. Zoran Mamdani says, the attack at a Hanukkah celebration in Sydney today was a vile act of anti-Semitic terror. I mourn those who were murdered, and I will be keeping their families, the Jewish community, and the Chabad movement in my prayers. May the memories of all those killed be a blessing. While we are still waiting for all the facts to emerge, what we already know is devastating. At least 11 dead, including Rabbi Eli Schlanger, who had deep ties to Crown Heights. At least 29 injured. Another Jewish community plunged into mourning and loss. A holiday of light so painfully reduced to a day of darkness. The attack is merely the latest, most horrifying iteration of a growing pattern of violence targeted at Jewish people across the world. Too many no longer feel safe to be themselves, to express their faith publicly, to worship in their synagogues without armed security stationed outside. What happened at Bondi is what many Jewish people fear will happen in their communities too. On Bondi Beach today, as men with long guns targeted innocents, another man ran towards the gunfire and disarmed the shooter. Tonight, as Jewish New Yorkers light menorahs and usher in a first night of Hanukkah clouded by grief, let us look at his example, and confront hatred with the urgency and action it demands. When I'm mayor, I will work every day to keep Jewish New Yorkers safe. On our streets, our subways, at shul, in every moment of every day. Let this be a purpose shared by every New Yorker, and let us banish this horrific violence to the past. Before people also turn around and say this is like Jewish exceptionalism or something, please suck my dick, okay? It's objectively true that you know these guys attacked a Hanukkah event. The intention was very clearly to target Jewish people. Okay, it is not Jewish exceptionalism or to call that out. Okay, and then of course Shabbos Kestenbaum, the PragerU correspondent, responds: "Keep my people's name out of your Islamist mouth, you scum! You praise the convicted Holy Land 5 terrorists, campaign with a guy who said America deserved 9/11, repeatedly denigrate our NYPD, and don't believe Israel has a right to exist as a Jewish state yourself. Didn't you support him? What? Yes, I did, and I do." Azan caught a stray. I mean, yeah, I live permanently in the minds of losers. Let's be real. That was a reply to someone else. Did you not see it? What are you talking about? No, this is Shabbos Kestenbaum, the PragerU guy, attacking Zoran for this statement. I mean, he's a total lunatic. The way public reacts to this is all going to depend on Candace Owens, right? I mean, I know how Candace Owens is going to talk about this. I can tell you right now. She's going to say, I told you so. Here's a false flag attack that Israel committed. Here's a false flag attack that Israel committed, and then now they're using it. Now they're weaponizing it. And, you know, the kernels of truth in that sentiment. The kernels of truth in that sentiment will be the litany of different envoys of Israel and Zionists living in the Western world or living in Israel that have been going crazy like this, advancing their own personal agendas. Not sure you mentioned, but the Australian news reported that the gunmen were father and son. Yes, I saw.
On August 17th, about 4 months ago, I sent Prime Minister Albanese of...
Like, dude. The first English statement that Benjamin Netanyahu makes in the aftermath of the shooting, the first words that comes out of his mouth, pay close attention to it. It's about Australia's bare minimum recognition of Palestinian statehood. I'm not even going to get into like how that conditional statehood recognition was already, and it was just a way to like, it was just a way to like stop the protests from taking place. But it shows you what his goals are.
Australia, a letter in which I gave him warning that the Australian government's policy was promoting and encouraging anti-Semitism.
Once again, this is a plea. I hope if there are, I mean, I don't think there are any liberal Zionists or Zionists in this community that remain. But if there are, like, if you have immediate family relatives, especially the Jewish HasanAbi heads, like, I hope you can cut through and explain to them and show them that Benjamin Netanyahu's commentary around this reads as unimaginably insincere to people who are not as invested in the ethnic cleansing project of Israel as they might be. Okay? That's it. Like, all of this stuff absolutely feeds in to the anti-Semitic mania. And it almost feels like he's doing it deliberately. You know what I mean? He's just like, he's really increasing the tension to the best of his ability because he doesn't give about anything other than advancing the genocidal project of Israel, the greater Israel project.
In Australia, I wrote, your call for a Palestinian state pours full fuel on the anti-Semitic fire. It rewards Hamas terrorism. It emboldens those who...
Like, dude, this is your number one? This is your number one concern? Really? Like, think about that. His number one concern, dude. It's crazy. It's so transparent. It's so calculated. It's up. He doesn't even give about the people that died. He's just like, yeah, of course. What did you expect? What did you expect? Of course, if you let people say that they don't like that I get to decide, then obviously this kind of stuff's going to happen. Ironically enough, the danger and instability, albeit limited for Israelis, as opposed to, especially in comparison to any other neighboring country or any other peoples that unfortunately have to live under Israeli occupation, is marginal. But that danger, even that marginal danger that Israelis face in Israel, or the danger that Jews face in the Western world, would diminish if Israel didn't exist in the ways that it does. If Israel was not an apartheid state with a Jewish supremacist ethno-state goal that is exterminationist, that is constantly destabilizing and constantly bombing every neighboring country, then none of that would happen. Certainly, there would still be anti-Semitism. It's one of the oldest bigotries, okay? But it would not be this explosive. And everything that Benjamin Netanyahu says and does, everything that Zionists say and do in the Western media, feed into this dangerous conflation of Jews and Zionism, Judaism and Zionism, feeding into anti-Semitic conspiracies.
Menace Australian Jews and encourages the Jew hatred now stalking your streets.
Like, one of the craziest aspects of this, unironically, is like, I've said this before, if Israel also did not find itself so predisposed with meddling in the domestic affairs of Western countries, even then I don't think there would be this much enmity towards Israel. Okay? That's the other thing. It's the arrogance, it's the entitlement, it's the attitude, it's the demands for censorship. Because remember, 2 years ago, things were different. Okay? The attitude was different. Most people didn't know about Israel or didn't care about Israel. They just saw it like as a, country out there that we are aligned with, like a Western style country that we're aligned with, that's like, fighting Muslims and stuff like that. They're in a bad neighborhood, right? Like, that was the attitude. That was a prevailing narrative. That was a prevailing attitude. But now it's the popular sentiment. It is the popular sentiment. It's Israel o'clock. So when you're demanding persecution, when you're demanding prosecution, when you're demanding censorship of the popular sentiment, the people that don't have that same kind of Zionist brainwashing or investment in the greater Israel project, in the development of this ethno-state, in the continuation of this occupation, when they hear you say this, they go, well, one, you're a monster, you're a war criminal, and two, now you want me to shut up, and you want me here in America, or you want me in Australia, you want me in London to not be able to say that you're a monster. You want me to be prosecuted, to be persecuted, to be jailed for calling you a monster? Well, suck my dick. That is the attitude. I routinely bring this up, but Zionists operate like it's 2003 in the way that they propagandize, in the way that they speak about these affairs, in the way that they talk about Israel. It's not 2003 anymore. In 2025, the popular sentiment is anti-Israel. You cannot brute force your way back to you cannot forcibly, you cannot by brute force, by demands of censorship, change the popular sentiment back in the direction of pro-Israel. That much is clear. If anything, it feeds into the anti-Semitic conspiracies of like Jews have control over the Western governments, Zog, Zionist occupied government. Like, that's what it feeds into. And for some reason, these guys refuse to reckon with that. It's crazy. You can buy CBS. It's not going to change. Okay. If anything, people are just going to say, see, we knew it. We told you. We knew it. You're going to buy TikTok. And all that leads to is people going, see, we knew it. We told you.
Anti-Semitism is a cancer. It spreads when leaders stay silent. It retreats when leaders act. I call upon you to replace weakness with action, appeasement with resolve. Instead, Prime Minister, you replaced weakness with weakness and appeasement with more appeasement. Your government did nothing to stop the spread of anti-Semitism in Australia. You did nothing to curb the cancer cells that were growing inside your country. You took no action. You let the disease spread. And the result is the horrific attacks on Jews we saw today. We saw an action of a brave man, turns out a Muslim brave man, and I salute him, that stopped one of these terrorists from killing innocent Jews. But it requires the action of your government, which you're not taking. And you have to, because history will not forgive hesitation and weakness. It will honor action and strength. That's what Israel expects of each of your governments in the West and elsewhere, because the disease spreads and it will consume you as well. But we are worrying right now about our people, our safety, and we do not remain silent. We fight those who try to annihilate us. They're not only trying to annihilate us, they attack us because they're
Yeah, tying it back to like a global international Muslim conspiracy. All Muslims are trying to annihilate you guys, all of you. Trust me, we're fighting for you. We're not fighting for our own ambitions. We're not fighting for just the greater Israeli project. We're fighting for everybody because all of these Muslims around the world are a danger, right? That's the narrative that he is trying to present here. It's a very common narrative. Israel has figured out that this is perhaps the only narrative that is salient, especially nowadays. And this is stuff that Zionist groups have actually focus tested, right? They look at focus groups to see like if they can get people back on board with the Israeli project. And they've realized that the only way that they can push for like a salient narrative in a sea of Israel narratives is to just simply redirect the attention back to enmity towards Muslims. Okay? That's the reason why he's doing that. He's just like trying to actively be like, it's fine. You guys don't like Israel, it's fine, but we're fighting this battle for you. We're fighting against the international scourge of Islam to make sure that this violence doesn't come to your doorstep, right?